Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch. I'm Chris Bianchi. Breaking news into us here at 9 News. There's been a shooting just outside of Aurora Central High School in Aurora. 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 have been injured in a shooting. And again, this is in Aurora, and this taking place with we first found out about this shooting about 45 minutes ago at about 12:59 p.m. It was when the Aurora Police Department first notified us of this shooting. So again, I want to kind of reemphasize what we know at this point. What you're looking at is Skyline footage over Central High School in Aurora, but 5 kids have been injured in a shooting in Aurora. This taking place earlier on today. We again found out about this about 45 minutes or so ago. The shooting taking place at Nome Park, that is at Nome Street and 12th Avenue, and Aurora Central High School, which is just across the street from Nome Park, is now in a secure position right now. It was under a lockdown, but right now the Aurora Police Department is calling it, I'm going to read for you the terminology that they're using for it. They're calling it a secure perimeter, not a lockdown at this point. There's a media staging area that's just been set up there, according to the Aurora Police Department, at 13th and Nome. But again, 5 kids have been injured in that shooting in Aurora within the last, earlier on today. And again, we found out about this about 45 minutes ago, or a little over 40 minutes or so ago. Now, there's very little information at this point. The unknown suspect is no longer at the scene. So, again, there may be more updates in terms of the suspect, the obvious motivations. And again, this is a breaking news story, so the information at this point is going to be very limited. But again, unfortunately, the sad news is that the 5 kids who have been shot at this point, ranging between the ages of 14 and 17, and this taking place just outside of Aurora Central High School. Again, we don't know at this point if there's any connection to the high school or not. Again, this taking place just outside of the high school, so the information at this point, again, going to be very limited. But what you're looking at there, that's Aurora Central High School here on the top left-hand side of your screen. And as you can tell, there's quite a bit in the way of police activity there. And right now, the high school itself is in a secure perimeter, but that is not officially a lockdown. It's just below lockdown status. So you would imagine if there was stronger belief, and again, this is pure speculation here at this point, where we're a few minutes into this, but you would imagine if there was a stronger belief that the unknown suspect, who is no longer at the scene, was in the high school, you would imagine that there would be a lockdown at this point. But again, what we do know is that we got the information first at about 12:59 p.m. and that shooting occurring at Nome Park, at Nome Street and 12th Avenue. That, again, all according to the Aurora Police Department. And Aurora Central High School is right across the street from Nome Park. So what you're looking at, again, here is a lot of Aurora Central High School, and you may see that kind of increased police presence. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of traffic getting through at this point. I'm also going to read for you a couple of the tweets that we did get in from the Aurora Police Department. 5 total people have been transported to the hospital. So should also mention that all 5 have been transported to the hospital. Aurora Central High School is on a secure perimeter. That is as of 11 minutes ago. The police department did initially say that there was a lockdown, but that has, within the last 11 minutes, been corrected to say that the high school itself is under a secure perimeter, not a lockdown at this point. Now, there are those officers that are on the scene at Nome Park and at Nome and 12th Street. The unknown suspect is no longer on the scene. So, again, there may be an ongoing manhunt. We again, still don't know. There's still far more questions than answers at this point. But the unfortunate news is those 5 victims ranging between the ages of 14 and 17. So there's a very limited amount of information beyond that at this point. But we imagine that within the, hopefully within the next few minutes, maybe a little bit beyond that, but optimistically thinking that within the next few minutes we will find out more information, as within the last 20 minutes or so, the Aurora Police Department has announced a media staging site at 13th and Nome Street. And the reason I kind of mention that is that's where we could, again, find out a bit more information once, if there's a media staging site, that you would imagine that there would be a media briefing within the next few minutes, if not the next few hours. And hopefully, again, we'll get a bit more clarification on the situation. Just to recap this for you, this is a breaking news situation. that just across the street from Aurora Central High School at 12th and Nome Street, there was a shooting. We don't know exactly when the shooting took place, but we do know when we found out about it, which was at 12:59 p.m. So that was almost in the nose. That exactly was 45 minutes ago is that we first found out about it. The shooting involving, or 5 kids were shot in the shooting, and all 5 have been transported to the hospital. Aurora Central High School is right across the street from where the shooting took place. Again, we do not know if there's any connection between the high school itself and either the people involved in the shooting, or again, any sort of connection, or it could be, again, a pure coincidence. Again, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record at this point, just want to reemphasize the fact that we just don't know that much at this point. This, again, will be continue to be updated, but the unknown suspect is no longer at the scene. So we don't know on a number of different, not at the scene could also involve perhaps being in the hospital, could perhaps involve having fled on foot. Again, we just simply don't know. But Aurora Central High School is not under a lockdown. It is under what the Aurora Police Department is terming a secure perimeter. So again, that is the limited amount of information that we do have for you at this point, and we'll continue to keep you posted with the very latest on this. But the information that we do have right now, and again, we'll continue to update this for you, is coming directly from the Aurora Police Department. And because of the fact, I mentioned this about 2 minutes or so ago, but that there is a media staging site that has been set up that tells us that we'll probably find out a bit more information via press release or a press conference here in the next, hopefully, few minutes, if not a bit beyond that. So we'll continue to keep you posted. But the initial tweet that, by the way, came in from the Aurora Police Department, and I'll read it for you, was that officers are on the scene of a shooting at Nome Park and Nome and 12th Street. There are multiple people shot, unknown ages or conditions. Central High School is on lockdown. We have since found out that there are a specific number of people who've been shot. It's 5 kids, all ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 years old. And they did initially say, we did initially say that the police department initially said that the high school was on lockdown. Is now again termed to be under a secure perimeter. So that is what we know at this point. And again, I do apologize that it's a limited amount, but we do want to kind of pass along what we do know at this point. We'll continue to keep you posted with the very latest on this developing situation. Again, 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 have been shot at Nome Park, just across the street from Aurora Central High School. We'll keep you posted with the very latest right here on 9 News Watch. Watch. I'm Chris Bianchi, and coming in with some breaking news. Within the last hour, we found out there's been a shooting, and 5 kids have been injured. 5 high school-aged children injured in a shooting in Nome Park, and that was right across the street from Aurora Central High School. So here's what we know, and again, the information at this point is very limited. What you're looking at right now, also Sky 9 coverage over Aurora Central High School and nearby adjacent Nome Park where the shooting took place, but 5 injured in a shooting that took place. We first found out about it almost an hour ago, a little less than an hour ago, from the Aurora Police Department. The Aurora Police Department also saying that Aurora Central High School itself is under a secure perimeter. We've also heard from people on the scene that Aurora Central High School is in a lockdown. So what we know again at this point, 5 injured in a shooting that took place at Nome Park right near Aurora Central High School. All 5 of those children, ranging between the ages of 14 and 17, have all been transported to the hospital. Again, beyond that, the information at this point is very limited. Now, as far as the suspect is concerned, the police said that the unknown suspect, was no longer at the scene. Again, what we know about that at this point is limited. That could involve a number of different things. There is a media staging site, so hopefully here, and again, this is purely speculation on my part, but hopefully here within the next few minutes, if not the next few hours, we will hopefully get a bit more of an idea about what has happened there. But again, 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 transported to the hospital. I'm going to do this for those who speak English. I'm going to do this quickly in Spanish as well for our Spanish-speaking audience. Había un tiroteo en el Parque Nome, que está muy cerca al Aurora Central High School en la ciudad de Aurora. Esto pasó hace menos que una hora que hemos escuchado sobre esto. Hay 5 lesionados y todos fueron transportados al hospital. Y todos están entre las edades de 14 a 17 años. Hay muy poco información a este punto, pero vamos a decir cualquier cosa cuando lo escuchamos. So I've just summarized that in Spanish as well. Going back to the English component at this point, again, I want to kind of re-emphasize what we do know at this point, and we're getting a lot of these updates through the Aurora Police Department on Twitter, and that's where we've been getting a lot of those, again, initial updates. And it's in fact been exactly 1 hour since we found out at 12:59 p.m. that there had been a shooting that took place at Nome Park right across the street from Aurora Central High School. And by the way, specifically, we're talking about Nome Street and 12th Avenue, according to the Aurora Police Department, is where the shooting took place. And gonna want to clarify something from earlier on. We don't know how the 5 children who've been transported to the hospital were injured. We do know there was a shooting and 5 people have been transported to the hospital. Again, I think I directly said that 5 people have been shot. That is not correct. We don't necessarily know that at this point. What we do know is there are 5 kids who have been injured, who have been transported to the hospital with unknown injuries, and how they got injured is also unknown at this time. But there was a shooting that took place at Nome Park. And again, Aurora Central High School is considered to be, and I'm going to repeat for you the exact terminology that the Aurora Police Department is saying right now. The high school is under a secure perimeter. We have had, again, varying reports that it is under a lockdown. We don't know exactly at this point the exact situation there at Aurora Central High School, but we'll keep you posted with the very latest on that. And the unknown suspect is no longer at the scene. And again, what that means is, of course, that's very open in question. I certainly wish I had more answers to pass along, but obviously this is a fast-breaking story where what we know at this point is, unfortunately, far more than what we actually do know. We'll continue to keep you posted with the very latest on this. And it's now 2 o'clock here. And again, trying to get you a little bit more, and I'm just taking a look here at the Aurora Police Department to see if there's been an update from them. Again, 5 total people have been shot. I said 5 total people have been injured in a shooting. All of them have been transported to the hospital. They range between the ages of 14 and 17. And again, Aurora Central High School is considered to be on a secure perimeter. Now, they had earlier said that it was under a lockdown. The Aurora Police Department going out of the way to say it's under a secure perimeter and not a lockdown. So we'll keep you posted with the latest on that. There is that media staging site that is currently being set up at 13th and Nome Street. The shooting that we know of at this point took place at 12th and Nome Street, again at Nome Park, which is right across the street from Aurora Central High School. We do not know if there's a connection between the high school and and the shooting and the injured children at this point. And what you're looking at there again, there's Aurora Central High School, which is just the south of 11th Avenue, and just the northeast of that is Nome Park. And what we understand of where the shooting took place was at 12, so it's about a block away from the high school is where the shooting took place. And again, 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17. So obviously safe to say that these are high school aged children, all transported to the hospital with unknown injuries. How they got those injuries, again, just to clarify, we do not know that they were shot, even though there was a shooting, according to the Aurora Police Department. We do not know that those 5 children were indeed shot. And again, we do have again, late-breaking information on that, and Sky 9 continue to track that. We do have again, we'll get you information as it does come, but again, unfortunately at this point, that information does continue to be on the limited side. So again, 5 injured in a shooting in Aurora, five kids, all ranging between the ages of 14 and 17, and this is right near Aurora Central High School in Aurora at Nome Park. So keep you posted the latest as it comes to us. I'm Chris Bianchi here on 9 News Watch. Thanks again for joining us here on 9 News Watch. Breaking news: we have 5 kids have been injured in a shooting in Aurora, taking place within the last couple of hours, according to the Aurora Police Department. The police department first tweeted about the shooting that took place about an hour and a quarter ago, so about 74 minutes ago, back at 12:59. We did get the initial tweet from the Aurora Police Department that there had been a shooting at Nome Park, which is right across the street from Aurora Central High School in Aurora. 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 have been transported to the hospital in the shooting. Again, want to clarify, we specifically do not know that those kids have been shot. We do know that there was a shooting, and again, 5 kids who have been transported to the hospital. And by the way, we're looking at here, top left-hand side of your screen, that is our reporter on the scene. That is Noel Brennan, who is outside Aurora Central High School. He's been speaking with parents. I'll actually read for you a couple of little bits of information we did get from Noel a short while ago. He said that there is a lot of police presence, as you might imagine, outside of Aurora Central High School, and that there are groups of students sitting outside. The school, by the way, itself is considered to be under a secure perimeter. It's not technically under a lockdown, though we've had some varying reports from people on the scene that maybe it is under a lockdown. Regardless, it's either under a secure perimeter. Again, that's what the police department is terming it at this point. Several parents and family members are anxiously waiting to pick up their kids from Aurora Central. Again, this is from Noel here. He said he spoke to one parent who said that Nome Park, where the shooting took place, is no stranger to violence. Again, that's one person saying that, but this is what's just been said to Noel. I will add in, we did get some important information for those of you who may have kids, or you're looking to pick up someone, or again, children, family members from Aurora Central High School. The Aurora School District will be sending out an email and an automated message to communicate dismissal for school later on today. And that message coming in 12 minutes ago, so I would imagine that within the next few minutes, we will again have some more information about that. And also coming up at 3 o'clock, we will have a press conference. That's the preliminary timing here from the Aurora Police Department. We're going to have a press conference coming in from them at about 3 o'clock, and we will have that obviously for you right here on 9 News Watch, as well as on 9 News. So we'll certainly have the latest on that, and of course wrap things on up and keep you posted the very latest on it. But again, I want to kind of reemphasize what we do know at this point. 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 were injured in a shooting. Again, those 5 kids were not necessarily shot, but they were injured in a shooting, all transported to the hospital. That taking place sometime earlier on today. We first found out about it about an hour and a quarter ago. Those 5 kids have all been, again, transported to the hospital with unknown injuries, and 2 of those, by the way, 2 of the 5 kids have been are at UC Health right now. That's what we understand. And also, the unknown suspect was no longer at the scene. Now, that can mean anything. Could be that the unknown suspect perhaps maybe in the hospital, perhaps the suspect fled on foot. We simply don't know at this point, but the unknown suspect is no longer at the scene at Nome Park, which is, again, right across the street from Aurora Central High School. So again, those 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17, obviously high school age kids at that point, have been injured in a shooting in Aurora, and we first found out about that about an hour and a quarter ago. And again, for those of you, or if you may know somebody who is looking for information about dismissal, there will be information and via email and an automated message. So obviously, if you're a parent or someone like that, make sure you're checking your email regularly and make sure you've got your phone on you, because there will be an automated message and an email to communicate dismissal instructions for school. And that'll be, again, coming up at some point this afternoon. That message first coming out from the Aurora Police Department about 14 minutes ago. So again, I would imagine we'll get some more information on that here in the next few minutes. I kind of want to go back here to what you're looking at right now. That is Sky 9, that is over Nome Park, which is about a block north of Aurora Central High School. Again, we do have a reporter on the scene. We also, by the way, have 2 other crews heading to the hospitals around the area as well, including UC Health. But right now it's reporter Noel Brennan, who is on the scene just outside of Aurora Central High School. And he mentioned that there is obviously that increased police presence outside of the high school. The school is currently under a secure perimeter. Noel also saying that he spoke to a few family members and parents who are waiting anxiously, as you might imagine, to pick up their kids from Aurora Central High School. And Noel spoke to a parent there saying that their family was anxious to reunite with their little brother, I should say, this is a sibling who was anxious to reunite with her little brother, and that woman saying to Noel that Nome Park is no stranger to violence. Again, that's one person's account. We don't necessarily know that, but there may be a bit of a troubled past with that specific area. Again, we'll get more information on that, but at this point, what we do know is not all that much, but we do know that 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 have been transported to the hospital. 2 of those kids have gone to UC Health, and again, there is going to be a press conference coming up at 3 o'clock, so in about 40 minutes time, we'll get a bit more information about this coming up as well. And we do have, by the way, 2 crews heading to the hospitals for more information on that. The unknown suspect was no longer at the scene. Again, we do not know if that means that the suspect has been transported to hospital, it has fled on foot. We simply don't know, but no longer on scene, perhaps apprehended, detained. Again, we just don't know about that at this point. And again, for parents, family members who may be wanting some information about how dismissal will take place, this Aurora School District will be sending out an email and an automated message to communicate dismissal for school later on today. So again, that is what we do know at this point, which again, we should probably get a bit more information at 3 o'clock. So again, 3 o'clock, about 40 minutes time from now, we will have a press briefing. That's again, temporary, preliminary time. Sometimes those can get bumped up, perhaps bumped back. We don't know exactly if it'll take place at exactly 3 o'clock on the nose, but we do know that somewhere around 3 o'clock we will have a press briefing from the Aurora Police Department, where we would imagine we will learn a bit more about what's gone on. But again, the top line information that you do need to know: 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 have been transported to the hospital in a shooting that took place at Nome Park, which is about a block north of Aurora Central High School in Aurora. So that is what we do know at this point. We do have reporter 9 Noel Brennan, who is on the scene there at Aurora Central High School, and we'll keep you posted with the very latest as that information comes in. I'm Chris Bianchi. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News, and again, 9 News Watch, and again, we'll have more information on the shooting coming up in the next few minutes. Thanks for joining us here on this Monday. I'm Chris Bianchi on 9 News Watch, and breaking news, and you're looking from Sky 9 out on the scene in around Nome Park, just outside of Aurora Central High School, where 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 are injured in an apparent shooting there in Nome Park. We first found out about this about an hour and a half ago, I should say about an hour and 45 minutes ago, about 12:59 p.m. And we will have a press conference from the Aurora Police Department and Aurora Police Department Chief Vanessa Wilson coming up at 3 p.m. So it's about 10 minutes time from now. But those Sky 9 images showing you a lot of the police presence around Nome Park, where the shooting took place again, somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 3 hours or so ago. Again, we first found out about it just before 1 p.m. local time, and we do know that 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 are in the hospital. That said, UC Health has received 2 of the 5 children, and Children's Hospital has 3. We do not know the condition of any of the 5, but Children's Hospital did say that of the 3 children that they've got, again, the condition is unknown, but they are considered to be stable at this point. So hopefully perhaps some good news. But again, we'll find out a bit more here in the next 10 minutes or so from the Aurora Police Department directly. We do expect that press conferences begin right around 3 p.m. Again, that's about 10 minutes time from now. Now, in terms of the suspect, there is no information, very little information about the suspect at this point. The unknown suspect was no longer at the scene. That is the only information we have at this point about the suspect. Again, we'll have that 3 p.m. press conference. I will also read for you something that just came in from our reporter on the scene. Reporter Noel Brennan spoke to someone who lives right across the street from Nome Park, where, again, the shooting took place. And Henry Martinez told Noel that he lives across the street, that he heard at least 30 gunshots and saw 1 teen after he'd been shot. Again, this is coming from a witness. I want to kind of reemphasize we'll learn a lot more and get specifics in about 10 minutes time. But again, heard at least 30 gunshots and 1 teen after he'd been shot. That's what Henry Martinez told our very own reporter on the ground there, Noel Brennan. So again, what we do know at this point, 5 kids ranging between the ages of 14 and 17 are in the hospital after an apparent shooting, and as you just heard a second ago, perhaps as many as 30 or more shots involved in that shooting, and those 5 kids transported to the hospital. And we do know that 3 of those are considered to be stable with an unknown condition, but they're considered to be stable, and they've been reunited with their families. So hopefully the 3 that have gone to Children's Hospital are good. It sounds reasonably promising that they're considered to be stable and that they've been reunited with their families. But again, the information at this point is still breaking. We still don't know the exact process or the exact conditions of those kids at this point. So we certainly don't know that. Now, another key point for especially Aurora Central High School students is that parents of students at Aurora Central High School, you will find out, if you haven't already, via email or an automated message about dismissal for the school later on today. And you can see, again, that Sky 9 that's over the Aurora Central High School area right now, and you can kind of see it. That looks to me at the top right-hand side of your screen, looks to be Nome Park, where the shooting took place, right around 12th and Nome Street in Aurora. And Aurora Central High School is on a secure perimeter as of last check. That was as of over an hour ago. Not a lockdown, but under a secure perimeter. And you probably saw earlier on the very heavy police presence that you might imagine that would accompany a situation like this. Now, we don't know if the 5 kids who were injured in the shooting were students or had any direct involvement with Aurora Central High School. I would say this the park where the shooting took place is 1 block away from Aurora Central High School, and the 5 kids who were involved, who were injured, range between the ages of 14 and 17, which is obviously high school age. Again, we do not know if they're Aurora Central High School students or not, but again, with the shooting took place a block from the high school, 5 kids of high school age. Again, I don't want to speculate too much about that, and we will get that harder and more firm information probably in the next 7 to 8 minutes or so. This press conference again from Aurora Police Department Chief Vanessa Wilson coming up at 3 p.m. So we'll have much more information on that. And again, we do have our reporter on the ground, Noel Brennan, who's been speaking with people around there, and he's also heard that unfortunately the park where this took place, where the shooting took place, is somewhat. Someone told Noel that unfortunately it's known for violence, and that again this is not unheard of for that area. But again, this is at Aurora Central High School. Do have a new update, and this is coming in from the Aurora Police Department. A sixth victim, an 18-year-old, self-transported to the hospital with minor injuries. We are still attempting to gather suspect information to release. And again, we will be getting that update from Vanessa Wilson, the Aurora Police Department chief, here momentarily. So again, it is now 6 victims that we understand. The 6th victim self-reported with minor injuries. We do not know the condition of the other 5 at this point. The other 5 are ranging between the ages of 14 and 17. We do have, again, I don't want to, especially with this press conference coming up here in about 5 minutes, don't want to hopefully over speculate here, but the 3 of the suspects who went to Children's Hospital have been reunited with their families and are considered to be stable, with though their condition is unknown at this time. That would, again, off the top of my head or at first read, that would strike me as promising news, but again, we simply don't know at this point about the 5. We do know that the 6th victim that we just found out about, who was self-transported to the hospital, this according to the Aurora Police Department on Twitter, self-transported to the hospital with minor injuries. So again, we simply don't know about the other 5, but we do know the 6th one has minor injuries. That is according to the Aurora Police Department. We do not know if that 6th victim was shot. We don't know if any of the 6 victims were shot. We just know that they are injured in a shooting. So again, broad umbrella, shooting within that 6 injuries that took place. We don't know that, and again, we don't know if those 4 of those 5 or 6 people who were injured in this are directly connected to Aurora Central High School, which is a block away from where the shooting took place, or not. But again, we should probably get a fair bit of information on that. We will probably get a bit more on that coming up here in the next 4 to 5 minutes, with this press conference set to get going with Aurora Police Department Chief Vanessa Wilson. So again, we'll get more information on that coming up in the next few minutes. But what we do know at this point, 6 victims, 6 injuries to, I should say, six kids between the ages of 14 and 18 years old, been transported to the hospital or self-transported to the hospital after a shooting at Nome Park. We first found out about that at 12:59 p.m., so that would be a little less than 2 hours ago. The suspect is unknown and no longer at the scene, though the Aurora Police Department is saying that they're attempting to gather suspect information to release. So again, that may, without over speculating here, may lead us to believe that we're going to probably find out a fair bit more about a potential suspect here, if they're apprehended, if they're in the hospital, what the situation is, if they're flat on foot. We don't know any of that at this point, but we'll probably, hopefully here, based on that language, find out a bit more about that here in the next couple of minutes. And again, Noel Brennan on the ground saying that he spoke to a witness who heard at least 30 gunshots and saw one teen after he'd been shot. So again, that is what we know at this point. We will find out more here in the next few minutes. So stay with us here on 9 News Watch. Go out to that press conference here from the Aurora Police Department in a matter of a few minutes. Thanks again for joining us.
We're interrupting Ellen with some breaking news. 5 teens and now a 6th teen has also gone to the hospital injured after a shooting near a high school in Aurora.
We're waiting for specific details on these teenagers' injuries. We know they're linked to the shooting. The 6th teenager drove himself or herself to the hospital with minor injuries. Some good news is that Children's Hospital, which has 3 of the teenage victims from this shooting, tells us that those teenagers are stable. They have been reunited with their families. Aurora Police are speaking for the first time about what happened today just outside of Aurora Central High School at Nome Park. Chief Vanessa Wilson.
One of the public information officers for the Aurora Police Department. I want to let you know about an incident that happened this afternoon about 12:45 at Nome Park. This is about 1200 Nome Street, just north of Central High School. With me today is Chief Vanessa Wilson, Vanessa Wilson. She'll give you a quick briefing. We're going to put out a news release later this afternoon with a little bit more details about today's incident. If you can save all the questions till the very end, we'll try to answer them as best as possible. Chief.
Thank you all for being here. Obviously, this is a very concerning incident for this city, as well as for this nation. I think we're seeing it's a public health crisis, really, when we think about gun violence anymore. I give you some information. If I don't have the answers for you, I will make sure that we follow up with whatever that we have. What I can tell you, we have a large crime scene here behind us. We have many investigators out here. We have individuals from our gang unit as well as Denver gangs has come out as well to assist us. Our major crimes unit will be leading this investigation. What I can tell you right now is I have 5 juveniles and 1 adult that has been shot. When I say adult, it's 18-year-old, so I think to all of us that's still one of our kids. So this is very concerning right now. I have 1 child in emergency surgery. I want to thank the school resource officers that were first on scene, and they applied life-saving measures in form of a tourniquet for the individual that's in surgery now. I've been in contact with Rico Munn, the superintendent of APS school. He wanted me to pass on that they will be sending information out to parents this evening. All 6 of our victims are Central High School students. I want to reiterate this did not happen on school grounds. It happened here at Nome Park and along the block of 13th to 11th on Nome Street. We've recovered multiple rounds and different calibers. We do have suspects that are at large, and we are working on information to try to gather information that we can get out to you on who exactly we're looking for. With that, I need the public's help. I need us all to be outraged by what happened here today, and I need your help. And please, you can remain anonymous, but if you know anything, if you have a Ring camera that you would like to provide us, if you hear your kid mention something, anything that you can give us right now is important. The Crime Stoppers number is 720-913-STOP. Also, I want you to know that our program manager for youth violence prevention, Christina Amperon, they are creating right now, they're working with Denver, and they're trying to get a regional response for outreach support for these kids, as well as these families that have been victimized. Once I leave here, I'm going to go to the hospital, hopefully connect with the victims' families. All the victims' parents have been notified, and I want you to ask all of you to keep them in your prayers. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Can you tell us how the victims are doing?
So right now we're hearing that they're non-life-threatening injuries, but obviously anyone that's shot with a weapon, a gunshot, is serious. So we need lots of prayers, and again, I said one child is in surgery.
Is this a drive-by?
My understanding is it was a drive-by shooting, as well as there may have been people on foot.
Was there return fire from the kids that were at the park?
We have no information that occurred. Right now we have that they are victims.
Chief, can you say if the kids were on break or were they between classes in the park when this happened?
You know, I'm not sure, sir, but they were not on school grounds. They were at the park.
You said suspects, plural. Do you have any sense of how many individuals might have fired weapons?
We had some neighbors called in. They had seen people they thought were suspicious, so I would say multiple suspects. I don't have a number for you.
With the units responding, do you believe this is gang violence, and if these minors were targeted?
You know, it's still the early stages of this investigation, so we're going to, not leave any rock uncovered. So we're going to look at all different angles. Again, we need help from the community. I'm just thankful that the SROs were where they were at the time, and that these kids hopefully are all going to come out of this with their lives.
Is there any vehicle description?
We have some vehicle descriptions. I'm being asked at this point not to release that because we're not 100% sure. People called in what they thought was suspicious, so I'd hate to identify a vehicle that isn't involved.
Can you speak to the violence at Nome Park? Have you seen shootings here before?
You know, I'm not sure of this year if we've had shootings here before at this exact park, but we can get you that information.
As police chief, what is your gut response when you respond to something like this?
Well, I can tell you when I got the call, my heart dropped. I think as many as most of you felt the exact same way, and I think enough is enough, and I think we need to come together as a community. This is a public health crisis. This is not all on law enforcement. We need to get out through to our kids and figure out a way to stop this.
Is there a violence crisis in Aurora right now?
There's a violence crisis across the nation right now, and so I think we all need to pay attention.
People that live on this block express concerns about what they call regular shootings. Is there anything specific you are doing to address the violence here?
So obviously we'll have heightened patrol in the area, and we are just responding to calls as we possibly can, but the SROs, of course, usually patrol the areas inside the school as well as around the school.
Knowing that this involved students all from the same school, what does that do for your investigation? How does that play into everything?
Well, I'm hoping that there's kids out there that know why this happened, that know what the situation was, and can actually share information with us. I'm sure that somebody out there knows something, and I need them to come forward.
Chief, how do you feel about the first responder response to this incident? How would you summarize that?
I couldn't be more proud of them. They saved a life today, and I want to applaud the men and women that showed up here today.
Were all the victims gathered together?
My understanding is they were at the park together, and some may have been walking back. I'm not 100% sure exactly, but it was all within this area that you see behind you.
Was there one vehicle?
There were multiple vehicles that people described as suspicious. Again, I don't want to point those vehicles out until we have more information. I'm hoping that we have Ring camera so we can put those visuals out to you all, and I ask your help to put those out when we have them, if we get them.
Did the shootings occur from a fair distance, given the level of injury? Was there, what would you estimate the distance?
From the street to the park, so from the middle of the street to the park, and as well as we have information there was a drive-by as well as people that may have been on foot.
Can you expand the problems you're having in gathering information from the community, just generally in scenes like this? What are you facing, and it's okay if you repeat yourself, what do you want to see happen?
Really what I need is for people to come forward. I know everyone nowadays have some sort of camera system. That would be very helpful in us to get some stills out of whether the suspects were wearing or what the vehicles that they were driving is out. Also, I just need you to talk to your kids, and I need you to ask them to please come forward if they have information.
Are you finding resistance to coming forward from people who know things?
All the victims, from my understanding, are being very cooperative as well as their families. And so, again, it's early on in the stages. We're still about 2 hours in, so we're asking for all the help we can get.
Are any other schools on lockdown?
No, ma'am. Central High School was put on lockdown, and right now they should be doing a controlled release for parents, and we have put that information out through tweets for parents to know.
Where did they go? Where did they get taken hospital-wise?
So local hospitals that are close in proximity here, we have, again, 6 victims. 1 self-transported, the rest were transported by ambulance.
Sorry, just to be clear, some of the shooters were in a car, but some might have been on foot?
That's my understanding. So again, it's very preliminary, but any information you have, no matter how small, we need it, please.
We heard that Anschutz was locked down. Was that because of this incident?
I'm not sure if that occurred, but we can get you that information. I don't believe Anschutz was on lockdown.
Is this a neighborhood or area prone to gang activity and gang violence?
So I think that this area is a good place for people to live, and we have a lot of hard-working men and women that live here. And obviously, the gang problem can go throughout any neighborhood. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure this is gang-related, so I hate to jump to that conclusion.
We have 2 more questions.
What's a safe way to classify?
Any connection to other recent crimes, Chief?
I'm sorry, sir?
Any suspicion of any connections to any other recent crimes?
I have been not told of any connections at this point, but again, we have several detectives out, and we'll be talking to our Metro partners to see if there's anything like this.
If this stems from an incident at school, are you considering this or classifying it as like a school shooting, or how does that play?
No, sir. Since it didn't happen on school grounds, thank God, that would have been, more victims that could possibly have been injured. So I'm thankful for that. And again, I'm working closely with Rico Munn, the superintendent of APS, and we will make sure that the kids that come to school tomorrow feel safe. We'll have more officers here, as well as counselors for them.
One more on
Type
this
of
side.
weapon? Any any information on that type of weapon?
Several different calibers is what I was told, so I don't have any further specifics.
How can we safely classify the amount? Dozens of shots were fired here, or 10?
I would say there were multiple shots fired.
Apologies for this already, but the suspects were high school students as well, or you don't know that?
We do not know, sir. And once, like I said, if I can get people to send me ring camera footage, we're getting descriptions. We're going door to door to try and get people to describe what they thought was suspicious, and we'll get that information out to you. I appreciate you being here today. You're our partners in this, and we thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Like I said,
Drive-by shooting has injured 6 Aurora Central High School
Stopper
students
720.
today who presumably were on break at Nome Park just across the street from the school. Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson describing what sounds like a pretty chaotic situation with the possibility of multiple shooters.
And that's part of what we've learned now, not only that all 6 of those, the victims today are actual students at Aurora Central High School, which was then placed on that secure perimeter, but now we're also talking about multiple suspects, multiple guns as well, and all too often on Mondays we talk about what has become a regular violent weekend in and around Denver and Aurora with gun violence, and today it's punctuated by this event on a Monday afternoon.
All students are expected to survive, according to the police chief. Sounds like one is more severely injured than others. That student's life was potentially saved by the application of a tourniquet there at the scene, and that student is now in emergency surgery. All the families have been notified. Every family has been reached out to. Aurora Central and APS is handling the outreach to parents about dismissal, about what's going to happen tomorrow there. But we heard Chief Wilson, when she was asked, does Aurora have a violence problem? That's what she's talking about. You know, we talk about what goes on the weekends around here, and people will say, well, does Denver have a problem? Well, yeah, Denver's got a problem. Does Aurora have a problem? Aurora has a problem. And the chief said America has a violence problem right now, which is something that we've talked about, that we've reported on in terms of the uptick in violent crime nationwide.
It's been 2.5 hours since this shooting was first reported, since they first knew of it, and now Aurora Central High School is going through a controlled release, and there will be many students, many teachers, people who work there at Aurora Central who will have a story to tell about what they saw, what they heard, what did happen today at 12:45. Our Mark Salinger is over there today. He is by Aurora Central High School with the latest from there. Mark?
Yeah, Tom, all the students are being let out right now as we speak. I want to step out of the shot and give you a better view. There are parents and students that are gathered around one of the entrances to the high school. They've been gathered here for several hours. I've been speaking with some of them who say that they have been through what far too many parents in this country have been through over the past several years, and that's getting a text from their students, from their kids inside the school saying, we're on lockdown, we've heard that there's a shooter. This time today it was outside of the high school, but that didn't stop the panic from going inside. They were on lockdown for several hours today as parents gathered here outside the high school as soon as they could to try and get a hold of their students. Now, just a couple of minutes ago, the release of the students began here as they let them out slowly in several groups. Again, the high school has been on lockdown for several hours as the shooting happened across the street at a park nearby. Now, some of the parents that I talked to today described getting those texts from their students saying, hey, we heard that there's a shooting outside. We don't know yet what's going on. And they came here as soon as they could. They said that they weren't really notified by the school system as to what was going on. They just got here as quickly as they could. They heard from media reports. They heard from their students texting them that they were on lockdown. And they were inside the school, those students, for several hours as everything was going on outside. Their parents weren't able to get a hold of them or see them or give them a hug up until just a couple of minutes ago when they were all reunited with their families. Of course, this will go on for the next several minutes here as they begin to let out the students in controlled groups, and from there they'll reunite with their families. Of course, those 6 students that are at the hospital. The hospital is just a stone's throw away. You can see the UC Health and Children's Hospital from the parking lot of the school, from the main entrance. It's that close to where the shooting happened, to where the hospital went to. And of course, as those kids recover, now the parents of those who were inside the school are being reunited with their kids.
Well, the story now will unfold both as the victims, their classmates, and their school respond to this, and also Aurora Police now trying to find out what did happen, who is responsible for this, and how they go about pursuing them.
Mark, thank you very much. There was a witness there on the scene who told our Noel Bren he thought there were 30 to 50 shots fired. We're talking about the possibility of multiple cars involved in the drive-by, multiple people on foot potentially involved as well. It sounded like, from what Chief Wilson was saying, they've got a lead on a couple of cars, but she said that she didn't want to blast it out there until they were sure. So that's the reason why there's that appeal right now to the public to check any security camera footage that they might have, anything suspicious, because Aurora Police want to be able to put out some good pictures of these various vehicles. There's going to be chatter in the community about this, and it's clear that Aurora Police are hoping that people will be cooperative and will come forward with information as they have it. As the chief said, nothing is too small. The number for Crime Stopper, 720-913-STOP, 720-913-STOP. That's where people can leave anonymous information.
A lot of information is coming in. We will have much more of that for you throughout the afternoon at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and throughout the day at 9news.com. So hopefully we'll have more information for you coming up in just a few minutes. We appreciate you as we interrupted the Ellen Show, and we'll see you at 4 o'clock with more. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch. You just saw a few moments ago a press conference from the Aurora Police Department where they got into more specifics about the shooting that took place earlier on this afternoon right near Aurora Central High School in Nome Park, which is about a block away or so from Aurora Central High School. Now, 6 individuals were shot, ranging from 14 to 18 years old. The 6 victims, though, and this is perhaps a little good news to pass along considering the circumstances, they were all considered to be with non-life-threatening injuries, but one of those students, and all 6, by the way, were Aurora Central High School students, one of those students is in emergency surgery, and Aurora Police Department Chief Vanessa Wilson asking for prayers for the all 6 victims. And again, this happened at Nome Park, and they recovered multiple rounds from the scene. The Aurora, this is obviously a very large crime scene, and also read for you the phone number that the Aurora Police Department is asking you to call if you have any information about this. By the way, what you're looking at now, this is Sky9 footage from earlier on this afternoon, right after the shooting took place. But again, that phone number, if you do have any information, or if you have a ring camera, if you're right around that area at around 12th and Nome, if you do have, again, any possible information, or again, a ring camera, the phone number is 720-913-STOP. That's 720-913-7867. So again, if you do have that information, again, please, the Aurora Police Department was pretty direct in asking for community assistance in helping solve this incident. Again, this shooting that took place, and again, 6 victims shot, all Aurora Central High School students, 5 of those between the ages of 14 and 17, so 5 of those considered to be children, and 1 adult, 1 18-year-old who self-transported to the hospital with minor injuries. All the victims' families have been notified, and again, the Aurora Police Department considering it to be all non-life-threatening injuries, which is, again, considering the circumstances, good news. Now, in terms of the suspects, and this is probably a key part as well, is unfortunately the suspects remain at large. The Aurora Police Department classifying it as multiple suspects. We don't know exactly how many suspects there are, but the understanding, this is according to Vanessa Wilson, who we just heard from a few moments ago, is that it was both by drive-by and by foot, so a couple of different ways. Again, we don't know exactly how many suspects there are, but they were clear in saying that there are multiple suspects who do remain at large at this point. Again, a combination of drive-by as well as by foot. Also, Vanessa Wilson, this was quite interesting to me, saying that student resource officers who were quite responsive, and the Aurora Police Department Chief, again, Wilson, was pretty direct in saying that the student resource officers in this case likely saved a life today. In fact, the direct quote was, student resource officers saved a life today. So again, there's certainly some good news and some pundits being, some honors, I suppose, being bestowed here from that. But again, the Aurora Central High School, the 6 Aurora Central High School students who were shot today, unfortunately shot, but again, 5 of those ranging between the ages of 14 and 17, and 1 18-year-old, all 6 of which are expected to survive. They are considered to be non-life-threatening injuries. Interesting comment as well at the very beginning. This is actually how Chief Wilson started the press conference, was saying, by quote, "It's a very concerning incident for the city and the country. It is a public health crisis," end quote, and also referencing guns as well. So that's a fairly direct statement there from Chief Wilson that you heard from a few moments ago. Now, one of those, again, 6 victims, is an emergency surgery. The suspects do remain at large. And as far as Aurora Central High School, there is a controlled release, and information about that is at the Aurora Police Department's Twitter page, and also via email, as well as through emergency or through message as well, through direct message, email, and on Twitter. You can find out information about the controlled release that's coming from Aurora Central High School, and part of which you can see there on your screen. Again, that's from earlier on this afternoon, some of the footage right after the shooting took place. It was first reported about 12:59 p.m. local time by the Aurora Police Department when we first found out about it via Twitter. Also, Chief Wilson saying, quote, "My heart dropped when she found out about this incident." I'm also going to quickly give an update about this in Spanish as well, so if you're joining us and you're speaking English, I'll be back in about 30 seconds. Había 6 lesionados en un tiroteo en Nome Park, en Aurora. Hay sospechosos que quedan libres, pero no sabemos el número exacto de los sospechosos. Pero la policía parece que todos los 6 lesionados van a vivir, pero hay una víctima en cirugía de emergencia ahora. Y si tienes información sobre este tiroteo, puedes llamar 720-913-7867. Voy a decir el número otra vez: 720-913-7867. 6 lesionados en Aurora en un tiroteo en Nome Park, que está muy cerca al Aurora Central High School, in la escuela de Aurora Central. All right, so I'm going to bring this back over to English again. I want to kind of wrap things up one more time. So if you're just joining us, 5 juveniles, 1 adult shot today in a shooting that took place earlier on this afternoon right near Aurora Central High School. All 6 victims were students at Aurora Central High School. The gang unit, by the way, the Aurora Police Department's gang units are going to investigate this now. The Aurora Police Department didn't explicitly say that this was gang-related violence. We don't know explicitly that at this point, or at least the Aurora Police Department wouldn't go as far to say that. But again, the gang units are helping investigate this, so may give you an indication about the possibility that there may be some gang-involved violence here. But all 6 Aurora Central High School students were shot at Nome Park, and all 6 are expected to survive, though one of the students is in emergency surgery, and Chief Wilson crediting student resource officers who first were able to get there with saving lives earlier on today. All the victims' families have been notified. So that's the very latest on this shooting. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch. We'll continue to keep you posted with the very latest. But again, 6 injured in the shooting that took place earlier on this afternoon near Aurora Central High School.